Hey, I'm Solomon Jaye, and welcome to Beyond Mediocre, where I get to sit and talk with creative professionals about what they are doing to push beyond mediocre. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm here at Marshall Ellis Dance Studio with the man himself, Marshall Ellis. Tell the good people at home how you got into performance.
Well, I started dance when I was 6 years old, so I started dancing at an early age. I started dancing in Alabama, which is a challenge in itself as a male dancer. So when I was age 15, I decided to switch over to ballet and chose that as a career path. But that's kind of how I got into it, just because I love being in front of people.
That's cool. So we usually have musicians and singers, but I thought it would be very cool for a number of reasons that we will get to at the end of this, to have this man here who's making himself a pinnacle, kind of an icon in Orlando as a choreographer. And so I would like to know what caused you to start this Marshall Ellis Dance Company, ME Dance.
Yeah, so ME Dance was founded in 2011. My goal and mission was to help local artists, dancers specific, to be able to do their profession at its fullest. A lot of dancers here locally, at that time was working in theme parks, kind of do the daily grind. They weren't really challenged artistically. That was trying to build another outlet for them to be able to create or have that fulfillment for them as artists. So in 2011, I was currently with Cirque du Soleil, and I was thinking of other things, like what other options could I do? How can I help? So I decided to form ME Dance, which is a 501(c)(3) charity. And then now that's kind of evolved into a theater space, 2 dance schools, and a dance company. So that's how
That's awesome, man. I think that's really cool, and I know a lot of other artists can relate to that kind of thing. I know myself, it's one of those things I talk to my wife about a lot. That idea of, yes, I'm grateful to be performing in any capacity, especially before this year when things were really booming. But at one point, I think probably from 2015, 2016, around that time, I was doing 70% weddings and nightclubs. And the other percentage was the stuff that was a nice kind of creative outlet.
Right.
And I'm not a person who spends a whole lot of time diving into radio music and those top 40 hits.
Right.
And it was the bulk of what I was singing.
Yep.
And so it's nice to have some of those other outlets where you can do something that feels a bit more creatively fulfilling.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, man. I get it. So I know that you guys have still been having shows, even though this we're gonna miss Christmas. It's getting pretty close to Christmas right now, which I probably shouldn't talk about, but I'm gonna do what I want to do, and we'll be airing this after the fact.
Right.
But I think it's amazing that in the midst of what's been going on in 2020, you guys have still been having shows and still plan to, in a certain kind of capacity, into 2021. You were talking about some of the safety standards.
Yes.
And how you've been accommodating that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. As artists, I feel like there's a way we can adapt. We can always survive. There's always a way. I feel like there's nothing should be limiting us. So we definitely thought outside the box. How do we be safe? How do we still create? And what can we do? So since we were, obviously had to shut down back in March, we did a lot of virtual. So we did a lot of virtual rehearsals. We also have a Me Performing Arts, which is a theater company. It's a youth ensemble company.
Okay.
And so we did all that virtually. So we rehearsed virtually. Then as soon as we were able to open the doors, we opened up to only family. And we'd still produce shows for the kids. So we were able to do that. Now, as the limitations or phases were released for our state, we were able to obviously host other functions in our theater. So since then, we've been able to hold at least 40 patrons in the house, hand washing, temperature checks, before you enter the space.
Nice.
But at the same time, we're still creating. So us personally, we've been able to produce a few of we lost a few shows for our professional company, but our youth ensemble companies, because we were able to start with the families only to be able to watch, and then expand it to other public viewings. So that's how we've been able to grow with this process of trying to get back to the new normal, I guess.
Yeah, I love that, especially for the sake of the kids' productions and that kind of thing. Because there's a program that since, I guess maybe for the last 12 or 13 years off and on, I've helped teach out in the summers in Santa Barbara, California. and you immediately, like, people immediately think, oh, you know, what kind of outreach program could you possibly be teaching in a place like Santa Barbara where everyone has money? It's just not the case. You know, like so many stories, there's this side of the train tracks and that side of the train tracks. And it is this kind of program that was bridging the gap and meeting some of the students and families where they are creatively, don't necessarily have the money for those kinds of arts classes and things like that. And we would have musical theater summer camp for the whole community. And it's a really cool thing. It gives kids something to do to keep them out of trouble, for one thing. And that matters, especially in a time like now when kids are like, I don't know what's going on. And it's probably a harder toll on them than it is even for adults who find ourselves strapped for cash. We have had, like myself, 30 some odd years of, you know, being all right to think back on. And for kids, everything's a lot more confusing.
It is definitely confusing. It gives them definitely an outlet and something to look forward to, because I think staying at home with everything being virtual is kind of like depressing for them. So being able to like somewhat socialize with a group of kids and being out and something to refocus their energies and their minds to creatively, I think it helped them a ton during this time.
That's cool.
So it made me very happy.
That's really cool, and being able to do it in a way where, you know, everyone still feels like things are being done, keeping the cleanliness standards. It is a thing that matters, you know. Washing your hands after going to the bathroom, that kind of thing. I've personally had a problem with people not doing that for a very long time. That's got nothing to do with 2020. They're just certain things that it makes it a little more comfortable, COVID aside.
Yeah, I'm a hand washer. Like, my wife used to make fun of me because I wash my hands so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I was preparing for today. So I'm used to it, you know. But you're right, to that point, I'm happy to see more people washing their hands. It kind of makes me feel like I'm not as crazy as I was before.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, maybe I might be more inclined to shake a hand.
Exactly.
So normally at the end of these kind of things that I've been doing, I will perform a duet, but this is a little unorthodox. We're not doing it that way. But the reason being is a few years back, I wrote a song for a group called The Edge Effect, and I wrote it as a duet that ended up being performed between myself and another singer named Shoshana Bean, with The Edge Effect singing these really epic backing vocals. And Emmy Dance Company did a ballet piece to the song called Monsters. Can you talk a bit about the why?
So back when I didn't have my space yet, I was working with Danny Allen, or I met him, through Edge Effect. We did some, work with you all, lighting and video stuff. This was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I have a company, I'm producing these works. And at that time, we were a few years old. But then I said, we're building a theater. And he thought, I was crazy. But at the same time, I was looking for material, what we could use for the opening of our theater. So Monsters actually premiered. That was the first thing that was actually performed in this space, which is kind of unique. And so I don't know.
That's cool.
I had to go back and look at some old emails and our threads, and I kept reaching out to you, say, hey, we had to push back the date. Oh, we had to push back the date. It's because contractors, permitting, it just takes forever. So 8 months later, we were able to get the theater open. But anyways, that piece actually premiered here opening day. So that was the very first thing that actually opened in here. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that's a little
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I love the work. I think the music's great. I think the lyrics are awesome. You can go with many different directions, either being relationship-wise, or it could be self-conflict within, your internal thoughts. And at that time, opening a theater was very scary. Orlando definitely needs a smaller venue, or for other organizations like myself to create. Yeah. And so that was my mission. It wasn't just for me, but it was literally for Orlando, so for the community. So getting rid of those fears and those anxieties of opening a space it kind of resonated with me. I kind of went with both literal and and figuratively with the piece. I had a male kind of going between two female dancers of choosing conflict, or thinking where's your guidance? So they gave a literal stance for the audience, but at the same time for me it meant more of that internal battle of hopefully I'm choosing the right thing for my future. And so far, knock on wood, we're still here. So
that's awesome, man. Well, thank you. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you fly in your dreams? And if so, how does it happen?
I don't fly. I actually turn. So as a dancer, It's feeling that rotation. I speak to my students all the time. Paris is a sensation. So once you find that feeling of like that rotation, you don't forget it. So I typically turn in my dreams, not fall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Everybody has such a different interpretation of that. We ended up down this rabbit hole, my wife and I, just a couple weeks ago, and I asked her, because it came up in a TV show that we were watching, I think maybe The Magicians on Sci-Fi or something like that. And I was like, how do you fly in your dreams? And it turned out that it was the same thing, and we were so bored that night. And so then I was like, let me text my mom, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Let me text my brother. I'll just text the whole family thread.
Yeah.
And then she did the same, and just seeing what answers were the same and which ones were different. It's like, this is so weird.
That is weird.
So very fascinating. Thank you again. Amazing to have you, and I'm looking forward to seeing the things that you end up doing more and more with the company. I personally plan, and I sincerely mean this, to come out and attend some of the shows that you guys are having. I'm looking forward to it, and I have a couple of side projects that I may want to be talking to you about as far as collaborating and some of that.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Thank you again, man.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
All right, let's hear some music.
My love light broken for sure a time or two. I'm used to hesitating. There's just something about you.
It's not that I don't trust you, it's just the devil inside. It's always in the details, the reason I'm left crying.
I'll kill the monsters under your bed if you kill the monsters in my head. When we've killed the monsters, we'll own the night instead.
I see the light. The story has an ending with you lying beside me.
Is this too much, too fast now? Is this too good to be true? Or is it safe to be feeling the way I feel about you?
Kill the monsters under your bed if you kill the monsters in my head. When we kill the monsters, we'll own the night instead.
Your love is a getaway. I met my soul. Your love is a getaway. I met my soul. Your love is a getaway. I met my soul.
Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. If you want to hear more stories like these, please give us a thumbs up and click subscribe to stay in the loop.